Welcome back. I'm very much excited to have you back here in this channel where we try to understand more about research so that we can do more credible and more structured research. So for today, we go direct to point number 1, and today we are looking at the different types of frameworks that we have in research, and we're going to start with theoretical framework. So number 1, we're going to have theoretical framework. So theoretical framework is actually the backbone. So this is actually the backbone of any research. The backbone of any research. So because it tries to explain the theories and also give the supports and justify why you are carrying out that study. So theoretical framework is very important because this is where we get to know the foundation, how you lay the foundation of your research. So because every research must be laid on foundation, and the theory are the backbone that support the theory and they explain why you are doing it. So in short, we are saying that a theoretical framework is a set of interrelated theories and concepts. Theories and concepts that provides the foundation, that provides the foundations or the foundation for trying to understand what you call the research problem. So if you want to understand how that research problem exists, then you must articulate very carefully and in a very structured way your theoretical framework, because any work that you are going to do must be supported by a theory, And why are we interested in theoretical framework? Because it explains why things happens the way they happens. So it explains why things happens the way they happen. That is key. To explain the way why things happens the way they happens, and it provides a lens through which we view your study. So it gives us a view on how we are going to look at your study and derive a meaning from it. So basically, for our example that we are dealing with, we are looking at the financial risk against the financial performance of an organization. So you need to provide a theoretical foundation where your work is based, or where your variable is based. What is the foundation of your variables? For example, the financial risk and the financial performance. How are they going to influence and affect the financial performance? So we can have a bit of theories like the agency theory, which was advanced by Jensen and Maclean in 1976, and it explains why the managers might take excessive risk that might affect the performance. So that is the foundation that I'm talking about. You can see now we are in a foundation that, according to this theory, management can take risk, any type of risk that will affect this performance, will either increase or reduce the financial performance. And therefore, that forms a foundation of why we need to study and see how this risk will affect the financial performance. We can also have a risk-return trade-off, what you call risk-return trade-off, by Marquez in 1952. Risk-return trade-off theory. And this theory tries to explain to us that higher risk, if you take a higher risk, you might get higher return. Those people who risk more in their investment, they get higher return or low returns. So we want to see if the management or an organization will take high risk, what will be the implication in their financial performance. Another one can be liquidity theory. So liquidity theory, or liquidity preference theory, which was put forward by Keynes in 1936, also tries to explain to us how we are going to see our liquidity or our cash flow in the organization. So firms need cash reserves to manage their liquidity risk. So how organization will be able to have more finance, so that they can manage their liquidity risk. Now you can see it is supporting this side again, the financial performance. So the firm needs to have more financial performance, which means more revenue, more returns, so that they can be able to pump in that finance, that money, to manage the liquidity risk that they have. And liquidity risk, this is the money, they need money to run the operations every day. So they need liquidity every day to run the operations. And therefore, which means they need to have enough revenue here, reserve. They need to have enough revenue reserve to help them manage the daily operations. So here it is the operations. So you see now the foundation that we are laying for a study, for us to be able to know what we are going to do in our research. So, and that is the big reason why you can see from this perspective, the theoretical framework is very key. So now this one will form your theoretical, this will form now your theoretical framework. And now, therefore, you will have to explain how the agency theory, the concepts of the agency theory, and how you relate it with your topic, and how now you connect it with the financial performer, and you support it with a well-known research that have been done to prove that really the agency theory has an impact on how you're going to manage your financial performance and the risk, and that is the reason why. So, and that takes us to the next framework, which is number 2, which is conceptual framework. So conceptual framework is basically a roadmap. So you actually bringing out the roadmap, or you are telling the people who are going to use your work, this is the roadmap that I'm going to use. So this one is basically the virtual you virtually represent the relationship of your variables. Okay, so you are virtually representing the grammatically representing the relationship of your variables. How are they related? And therefore, it tries to define how you are measuring, how you are measuring your variables, and how they are connected. So for example, we can have under the financial risk, we can have the liquidity risk on this side. The liquidity risk, that is one of the financial risk, your independent variable. You can have the credit risk on this side, like that. And now you are giving us how they are connected in affecting the financial performance. Okay. And the financial performance can be measured return on asset, or return on equity, or in profit margin, or whatever, or Tobin Q. So whatever metrics you are going to use, it actually this is now a conceptual framework. So it tells us how these variables are connected, how these variables are, all of them, how they are connected to one another. So you cannot bring in here a variable which is not connected here. So I've seen some students bringing in some variables and they tell us this is the independent variable, but when you check through, these variables are not connected. And here we can bring in a moderating variable or a mediator or a control variable. So I'll be bringing in a new video on that to explain how you can be able to select a modulating, a mediating, or a control variable, and how you can know one. So keep watching, and the video is coming soon. So here, this is how you structure your conceptual framework, and therefore you are dramatically or virtually representing the relationship of your variable, and therefore you have to define clearly what is your independent variable and what is your dependent variable, and if you're using a moderator, it must come out very, very clearly. So the purpose of this conceptual framework is actually to be able to identify the dependent variable, and moderating, mediating, or a control variable. For example, in our example that I've represented here, which we are using, the relationship between the financial risk and financial performance, the liquidity risk, the credit risk, these are a dependent variable, and financial performance, which can be measured using return on assets and others, is dependent variable. And we can have a moderating variable in our case, the firm size. And why I've selected this is because organization will be better. A big organization have a bigger hand on how they manage their different risks than a small firm. So the size of the business matters. So when you are doing that research, you need to control the size, or you need to know that there is a moderating variable, the firm size. The big firm have a better way of managing risk than a small firm. And that becomes very, very key in whatever we are doing here. So that is how we can structure our conceptual framework. So that takes us to our framework number 3, which is analytical framework. So number 3 here, we have analytical framework. So we have analytical framework. So what is this analytical framework? So we are saying now this is where the work starts, or what we call the real magic happens. This is where the real magic happens. Now you're asking yourself, how? The reason is it explains how you will analyze. It explains how you will analyze. How you will analyze the collected data. How you will analyze the collected data. So an analytical framework explains how you will analyze the collected data. And it's this all about the tools that you are going to use, the models that you're going to use, and also the methods that you're going to use in analyzing your data. So, and therefore, analytical framework is very key, and it should be very, very structured. So we are saying the purpose of the analytical framework is just to provide a structured way to analyze the data. Okay? One is to analyze the data, to interpret the data, and number 3 is to give conclusion. So, and that is the work of analytical framework, and it is very key. It should be structured from point A to point Z. How you analyze the data, how you interpret the data, and how you give the conclusion. That is the purpose of an analytical model. And how do you figure out the model? You can use different tools. For example, in studying our relationship between the financial risk and financial performance, you can use regression model. And that one will establish the relationship between the variables. Will establish the relationship between the variables and the impact that it has. And you can also do a moderation analysis. And this one will help us to check the effects of the firm size and the effect of the firm size in this relationship. So you will do regression analysis, you go ahead and you do a moderation analysis, which will help us see how the firm size try to moderate that relationship. And you can use other tools and methods to analyze this data, like what we call the starter. You can use SPSS, you can use the Python, the latest tools for data modeling. So you can use all these one to model your data so that you can analyze them in a very, very much structured way. So that is very, very important. So analytical model is very important because it will give us a structured way on how we are going to analyze our data. So let's go to point number 4, or our framework number 4. And our framework number 4 is methodological framework. So we have number 4, what we call methodological framework. So we have methodological framework. And basically this answers the question how. Answers the question how of your research. How of your research. How are you going to carry out your research? So this methodological framework try to describe the research design that you are going to use. Try to explain the data that you are going to use. Try to explain, that is the data collection. Try to explain the sampling method that you are going to use, if you have to use, or your population. Okay? So that is a methodological. So it tries to help us understand the design that you are going to use. Remember, the research design is very key. You have to select the correct research design depending on the data. And maybe very soon I will release a video on how you can select the best research design that can help you to analyze your data well. So depending on the data that you are going to use. So if you are going to use qualitative data, you cannot use the design that you are going to use should be based for qualitative data, not a quantitative data. It helps you to know how you're going to correct the data, the tools you're going to use, whether primary, secondary data, the questionnaire, you're going to use interviews, observations, surveys, whatever you're going to use. Then it tells you the methodological, the sampling method that you're going to use, and how you are going to use it, and the supporting evidence why you're using that type of sampling method, and how are you going to determine your sample. So whether you're going to use a model, a formula, or any method that you're going to use. So methodological is very, very key, and most of the time it forms our chapter 3 in our research, and it should be well articulated, because this is the engine of your research. If you fail here, it means you will analyze wrong data, you will correct the wrong data using wrong tools, and therefore your data will not be reliable, your conclusion will not be reliable in making an organization concrete decision. So that is very, very key for a researcher to understand how it is going to affect and have an implication in your research. For example, in our case, we have an example the influence of financial risk on financial performance. We can use quantitative data. We can collect quantitative data on those risks and also on financial performance. And we can use a panel data to analyze that data. We can use a stratified random sampling for all these firms to do our research. And we can collect the data from 5 to 10 years using OLS regression and correlation analysis, and you analyze it using that. So that is how the methodological framework works, and the key issue here is should be very structured, that anybody can be able to understand what you are doing. And that takes us to number 5. That is our number 5 framework, which is logical framework. That is the logical framework. The logical framework. So this is just what you call the log frame, and it is mostly used in applied sciences. So it's used in applied sciences, especially in projects. And the reason why it is just a structured matrix, so it is a structured matrix, very structured matrix that has what we call the input on one side, okay, and it has the process on the other side, it has the output, and it has now the outcome on the other end. So that is why we're saying it's a structured matrix, and it's applied more in a project because you'll have the inputs. For example, you're doing a training, you want to improve the livelihood of maybe the vulnerable in the society. So how can you do it? Maybe you'll have a training for them. How are you going to carry the training? How are you going to confirm whether these people attended the training? And the output, this is the immediate result that you're going to receive. Maybe they are going to start small businesses and whatever, and the long-term effect, they are going to, maybe your training and how you're going to assist them will have a long-term effect of improving maybe their financial literacy skills. So this is how the logical framework operates. For example, in our case, our input is here, like you can have a credit risk, and the process can be, the process that you're going to apply there is the data collection. We collect the data, we analyze the data, the output will be the findings, and the outcome will be better risk management practices within these firms. So that is the long-term effect. But here, the immediate result is the research findings that are going to have an implication on how we are going to move forward from that point of view. So that is a short discussion on a very important frameworks in our research that we need to understand. And now, at least you know the 5 essential research frameworks that we have, starting from the theoretical, conceptual, analytical, methodological, and also the logical. So each of these frameworks, they play a crucial role in trying to structure our research and how we do our research. So therefore, finally, if you find that the discussion that we have is very useful, you can like and also subscribe. That is the only way you can help me to grow the channel. And you can give me the comments so that I can take up your comments and see how I can improve in the next coming video. So see you in the next video.